Thank you, guys. So as someone who comes from the Russian community here in Australia, I've been pretty outraged by the narrative created by our media depicting the Ukraine as the good guy and Russia as the bad guy. Believe it or not, there are a lot of Russians here and around the world that support what Putin is doing in the Ukraine, myself included. Since 2014, the Ukrainian government, together with Nazi groups like the Azov Battalion, have besieged the Russian populations in the Donbass, killing an estimated 13,000 people, according to the United Nations.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
Could I finish?
Just quickly finish, and then we'll come to that and put that to the panel.
So my question is, where was your outpouring of grief and concern for those thousands of mostly Russians?
Okay. When you mention the 13,000, the United Nations has listed 13,000 total people killed since the conflict, but you're trying to suggest that is Russians killed by Ukrainians, and I think we need to point out that the United Nations has pointed out there is 13,000 killed since the conflict began in 2014. So we need to be very clear on that. Can I just put this now, leaving aside your personal views on this, can I just put that question, I'll go to you, Jason, on this. The idea that there is a moral equivalence or there is two sides, we know that Vladimir Putin has said that there were provocations as he sought, the encroachment and enlargement of NATO. He has claimed there is a genocide in the Donbass, which the evidence has not been presented to support that, but he has claimed there is a genocide in the Donbass, which the evidence has not been presented to support that. But the allegation here that there are two sides of this or provocations that led to this, how do we look at this in its totality without diminishing what's happening on the ground and bring some... Is that possible?
It's really simple, Stan. There is no moral equivalency to murder. Just because someone is murdered does not give you the right to murder someone else. Secondly, the sovereignty of a nation cannot be simply wiped out because one individual decides without evidence that he's going to do that. And this is critical. We live in a world at the moment that is managed by rule of law. If we change that to a position where people just get to decide what they want to do because they've got more guns than the next person, that is not a world I want to live in. Change that to a position where people just get to decide what they want to do because they've got more guns than the next person, that is not a world I want to live in. And I don't think it's a world anyone wants to live in.
Jason, can I also go to you on this point, and that is that you have Russian heritage yourself, and your grandparents come from the Soviet Union.
Well, my grandmother.
You've got grandmother, but your grandparents came from the Soviet Union.
Well, no, it's very
anyway,
complex.
it's very families are complicated.
Section 44, it's all on the public record.
But when you hear this, that there are Russians supporting Vladimir Putin, as we heard, how do you feel about that?
Well, I don't care. I don't care. There are international laws. And I mean, to your point, Stan, which goes to Dennis's point, there are no good endings to this. I mean, we sit here back in Australia and we go, well, one country's invaded another, that's wrong under international law. Then this is not going to end well unless the West is incredibly assertive about pushing back this unwarranted...
Brendan.
Well, I think that there's a real question here about the misinformation that's deployed by Putin.
Russia, people here have been talking about family who are suffering and people are dying. And I understand you wanted to ask your question about is there some reasoning for this, but you supported what's happening, hearing that people are dying. And can I just say I'm just not comfortable with you being here. Could you please leave? I've been... It's really... No, Sasha, I'm sorry. You can ask a question. You can ask a question, but we cannot advocate violence. I should have asked you to leave then. It's been playing on my mind, and I'm sorry, but I have to ask you to leave, please.
Okay, could I...
No, please. Just out of respect. Just no, please. We're not having the conversation, Sasha. We can't have people advocating violence. And I should have asked you to leave. It's been playing on my mind. I wanted to have a proper conversation about these things, but I have to ask you to leave. I'm really sorry. Okay, I'm sorry for that. But, you know, these things happen. It's live television. You think about these things. It's really been troubling me that we can have a conversation and we can look at where the arguments are and we can try to look at the sides of the argument. We can't have that, and I'm sorry. And can I just say I'm just not comfortable with you being here? Could you please leave? I've been... It's really... No, Sasha, I'm sorry. You can ask a question. You can ask a question, but we cannot advocate violence. I should have asked you to leave then. It's been playing on my mind.